Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining the seventh webinar of the TAM R&D webinar series. So I'll quickly introduce myself. I am Nitin Yati. I'm a TAM based out of Mumbai. I also have Siddharth Swami along with me. He's a TAM in Pune, and he'll be co-hosting this webinar. And the topic of today's webinar is Visualize Automation 8.x architecture overview and design best practices. So since there is a lot of change in the architecture from 7.x version to 8.x, we were getting a lot of requests from the customers to organize a webinar on VRA 8.x architecture before the customers can think of upgrading or migrating from 7.x to 8.x. Just because of that, we are hosting this webinar today. And Sudhindra is going to be the presenter. He'll be delivering this webinar. Sudhindra is one of the PMs for Visualize Automation. He's been working with VMware since over a year now. Before we start this webinar, just want to set some basic ground rules. We are recording this webinar. So if you miss it or if you want to send it across to your team, you will get the recording from your respective TAMs. You can put your questions. If you have any questions in between, you can put that in the Q&A window at the bottom. So me and Siddharth will be monitoring this Q&A window. Or you can put that in the chat as well, but we would prefer if you can put that in the Q&A window. We will put everyone on mute by default, and we'll try and have 5 to 10 minutes in the end where you can unmute yourself and then ask the questions directly to the presenters. So that's it. Siddharth, do you have anything you want to share?
No, I'm good. We can
Perfect.
start.
So we have set Sudhindra, over to you. You can start.
Okay, thanks. So like since I'm one of the product managers for Visualize Automation.
You'll have to be a little louder.
Yeah, so today I'll be going through the value proposition of version 8, as well as some of the best practices of using the product. Also, I'll go through the roadmap that we have, and finally end with some of the approaches we are recommending for transitioning to version 8 from version 7. So, like I said, we'll do the roadmap and we'll finally end with the transition to version 8. So, starting with the value proposition. So, Visualize Automation is part of the entire Visualize suite, where we offer a bunch of functionality and value to customers. In terms of the infrastructure we support, we support pretty much everything in terms of its deployed systems, entire data centers, and also native public cloud support. In terms of lifecycle management, we do compute, network, and storage. And in terms of organization and governance, we have a platform which will enable you to do that, and using which you can expose services with provisioning or orchestration, operations, network management, storage management, cost and billing, and so on. In addition, with VROps and other products in the suite, we can do cost optimization, security and governance, application operations, so that the entire suite will enable a self-driving operations kind of model for you. So in terms of, there are some shifts when it comes to version 8. One of the goals of version 8 is to give a choice to the customer on how to manage their management model. So version 8 is now available both on-prem as well as in a SaaS form factor. The on-prem is just VRA, and the SaaS form factor is called as VRA Cloud.
Yeah, Sudhindra, so even I think your voice is low. We can't hear you clearly. So we got that on the chat window as well.
Let me see what I can.
So, Sudhindra, are you using a headset or are you using laptop's mic?
I'm using the headset.
I think let's try with the laptop's mic. I think there's some issue with this headset because earlier also we had some problem.
Or maybe try and put microphone close to your mouth.
I'm already doing that.
Okay.
Is this better?
It is better now.
Okay, I think we got some response. Please continue.
Okay, so like I was saying, we offer a different form factor for consumption. You can do it either on-prem or cloud. And in terms of release timelines, the cloud version gets released about once a month, and we have a twice a year release for the on-premises product. And going into how the product is actually organized, in terms of there are various user roles that we support. We start with the basic administrator and the cloud admin, the SRE. And also we go up to the developers themselves who can do self-service management. To enable that, we have a basic services architecture in the product, which is exposed through an API, on which you can design various services with the infrastructure objects that we support today. These could be on-premises VMware, vSphere objects, or native public cloud objects as well. And on top of this, there is the governance layer and the policy management functionality. Now, the entire offering is sort of broken down into several individual services. This is not how it was in 7.x, and so this is slightly different. So version 8 has 4 main services. The first one is Cloud Assembly, which is mainly the infrastructure management area, which is where the administrator can come in, set up the infrastructure, design blueprints, and expose services to the end consumers. Service Broker is sort of the catalog and the self-service area, wherein developers or internal customers can come and order services. CodeStream is our CI/CD pipeline tool, which helps with deployment automation. And finally, vRealize Orchestrator, which is the workflow automation engine, and which is one of the most heavily used products today in VMware. And like I said, all 4 services are enabled both on premises and in the SaaS version. So one of the key goals of version 8 is to simplify the deployment and the architecture itself. I know there were a lot of difficulties with the 7.x architecture. So we have greatly simplified the version 8 architecture. Currently, now it's based on a Kubernetes engine where each of the services is internal Kubernetes pods, and the entire deployment now is broken into 3 separate products. The installation and management is done by the vRealize Lifecycle Manager product. The identity management by Workspace ONE Access, which is like it's called now, or previously VMware Identity Manager, and finally vRealize Automation 8. So you'll have to install 3 different products to this. To make that simple, we have something called an easy installer, wherein you'll be able to deploy all 3 products within an hour, like we've seen in actual customer scenarios. So, and then the goal of this is to make the deployment of the product extremely simple, and the feedback that we've got is version 8 greatly simplifies the initial deployment process. In terms of out-of-the-box integrations that we support, these are the ones that we have right now, and more in coming down the line. The first one is a ServiceNow integration where you can install a ServiceNow plugin and get access to the services that get exposed. These will be available as catalog items, and you can also update the CMDB with it. We have an IPAM integration with Infoblox where you can manage IP addresses and IP ranges. We have policy management wherein we have the host naming policy, the tagging policy, and so on. And finally, we support out-of-the-box integration with config management products like Ansible and Puppet. So this is one of the core areas where you will see differences with version 7. The organization of version 8 is very different in terms of governance to version 7. Once you deploy the product, the first constructs that get created are something called orgs, which are referred to as organization here on the top left side. And in an organization, you can create multiple projects. You can think of projects as individual application with its own teams and so on, where each project will have an admin and individual project users. On the right hand side is where how you can do abstraction on the infrastructure and expose infrastructure in a very governed fashion to each of your projects. The basic infrastructure, whether it's on-prem or in cloud, is broken down into several constructs called cloud accounts, which correspond to a VMware vCenter or an availability zone. These get broken down further into something called cloud zones, which refer to a region or a data center. And from that, you could then group all these resources into specific areas, into specific projects. The placement of which is determined by something called profiles. You have network profiles, storage profiles, and so on. On the design side, the blueprints are infrastructure as code, wherein you have a YAML format. And on top of the content, you can have your policies and your governance constructs in terms of user management, tagging policies, naming policies, and so on. So this is very different to the way 7.x was organized, wherein we no longer have the concept of tenants and business groups. I'll share how each of these map to 7.x a little later.
So Sudhindra, there is a question on the chat window. Do we still have Windows dependencies with VRA 8 or it is completely an appliance-based?
Yeah, so that's the good thing where we no longer have any Windows dependency. Everything is appliance-based, everything is Kubernetes pods.
Okay. And the database would be PostgreSDB with the appliance?
Yes, yeah, it's a PostgreSDB. Yeah, so in terms of the YAML or the design, the blueprints has been improved to have a infrastructure as code support, wherein you can have a YAML format where you can write code to deploy infrastructure. The YAML that we support is very close to the native YAML format. And in addition to the YAML format, we also have GUI-based inputs like window, which is similar to 7.x. So you have a choice whether you want to do it as code by coding or through the visual designer and input form as well. So and in addition to this, there is a visual designer and a palette where you can drag and drop items. It will actually, once you drag and drop machines, networks, disks, and so on, it will actually create code for you on the YAML. So, so we have tried to simplify the experience as much as possible, and writing this code is made very simple. The other aspect of this is VRA and VROps are tightly integrated together. We support various use cases like workload placement, pricing, rate cards, health metrics, and so on in conjunction to VROps. We'll be able to set up VROps as an integration or as a cloud account, based on which VROps will start collecting data from automation and enable all these use cases. We have a rich set of D2 actions that are exposed on the deployment items. So some of the D2 actions are directly on the deployment, where you can change the leaves of the deployment, power on, power off all the machines, update the deployment and so on, or you can also delete the deployment. In terms of individual resources, you have the various D2s available for machine as well as for disk. For the machine, you can take snapshots, you can reboot, you can resize, you can revert to a snapshot, shut it down, suspend it, and so on. While on the disk, you can add a disk, remove a disk, resize, you can set tags, you can set up console access, and so on. So most of the D2 actions are available out of the box with version 8.
So there's a question in the Q&A window. Aman is asking, what are the major differences between ABX actions introduced in VRA 8.x and VRA workflows? Could you please share some of the key use cases where we can utilize ABX actions instead of VRA workflows?
Yes, so ABX is actually very similar to VRO. ABX user, you can essentially write Python scripts and run them as internal ABX actions. The way you do it is through Service Broker content management area, where you can import an ABX action or a Python workflow and you'll be able to run it. We're also exposing the functionality wherein you can also use some of those actions as custom D2, where you can run ABX action as a D2 custom D2 operation on some of these resources. So whatever will be supported by VRO will be supported by ABX as well in the product.
Okay, so there's one more question before you move on. Akhil is asking, could we understand what kind of integration is possible with Snow and Ansible? What are the features associated? If this is not the scope of this discussion, please ignore.
Yeah, so in terms of Snow, we have a very granular integration. So one is there's a plugin published on the ServiceNow portal which you can download and deploy. What that will do is it will enable access to the catalog that is made available through VRA. What it'll also do is you'll be able to update the CMDB with it, and also be able to run approval workflows within ServiceNow itself. So if you have your organization set up in ServiceNow, you can plug it into the Realize automation approval flow, so that the approvals are now not managed by VRA, but within ServiceNow itself. So such deep integration is also possible.
Okay.
In terms of Ansible and Puppet, we have the options wherein you can write Ansible code within the blueprint itself, within a config area, so that any post-processing, or if you want to run Ansible playbooks once a VM is deployed, you'll be able to do it as in the design itself. It's a very powerful feature which we have enabled through the blueprint designing engine.
Okay, thanks.
Another interesting area in version 8 is actually cloud agnostic provisioning. So we have exposed certain objects which are not really infrastructure specific, or let's say endpoint specific. We could have something, there are 4 items in particular, which is a machine, a disk, a network, and a load balancer. Each of this corresponds, so I've taken an example of a machine here. So each of this machine could map to any of the various clouds, whether it is the vSphere on-premises cloud, or the AWS, Azure, or GCP clouds that are native public clouds. So when you drag and drop a cloud agnostic object on the blueprint, depending on how the tags are set up, the provisioning engine will will create a machine in the appropriate cloud. Now, for example, if I want to take an example, let's say there is prod, which corresponds to VMware, development environment, which corresponds to AWS, and a test environment, which corresponds to Azure. And let's say at the deployment time, I give a tag which says env prod. Now the engine will go and look at this tag and will say, okay, this is a production deployment, and hence it has to be placed in VMware on-prem. And accordingly, the provisioning will take place on-prem. However, if you give a tag which says env dev, the machine VRA will understand that it's a development instance and hence needs to be provisioned in AWS and will do so accordingly. So the advantage of this is with one blueprint, you can essentially provision across all the clouds and not have any cloud specific content in the blueprint. So the platform is intelligent enough to understand where it needs to be placed based on the tags or the metadata you attach to the deployment. In terms of the various services that we support that are available in native public clouds, so this is the broad list that's available. So we have close to 10 plus services on AWS and Azure, and we are growing the list for GCP. So we touched upon VRO earlier. Now, some of the improvements that has been done in VRO is that it's now integrated into VRA, and it also has a bunch of out-of-the-box workflows and plugins. In fact, one of the things that we have done is we have brought in a lot of VRO content within the product itself, so that you wouldn't have as many VRO dependencies as before. For example, some of the policies which we have on the D2 side and so on. Integration with VRO is as strong as it was with 7 earlier, and you can pretty much do anything that you have done earlier and take it into version 8 with some minor changes. So a couple of things which you need to be aware of with version 8 or version 7.6 itself is some of the plugins have been discontinued in VRO, specifically the IaaS plugin and the Cafe plugins. So if you have workflows or actions which are using these components, you'll have to rewrite them to be compatible with version 8.
So since we have a lot of questions, let's take 2 more questions before we go to the next slide.
Sure.
So in VRA 7.x, we have DEM workers which we can scale out. How about in VRA 8? Yeah, so like you have, so we have 2 options. You can have a standalone deployment, or you can have a HA deployment where you can have 3 nodes deployed. So the HA deployment scale that we are seeing is actually very close to the largest ever deployment which we have in 7.x. So just having 3 nodes, a 3-node HA deployment with VRA 8 will satisfy most customers' requirements on scale. Okay. So in that case, DEM workers will also be distributed across these multiple nodes. Correct. So then those are internally managed. Perfect. Okay. So the next question is ServiceNow plugin bundled in the license, or do we need to buy it separately? Can we get more details on tagging? On tagging, I do have some slides in the best practices area. Mm-hmm. On the ServiceNow plugin, I'm not sure. I'll have to get back to you, but I believe that I don't think it's priced. It should be part of general availability. Okay. Okay. So there's a question on upgrade from 7.x to 8.0. I think you will be covering that in the next slide, right?
Correct. I do have a section where I'll be covering the transitioning to 8. So it's not a direct upgrade, and I'll be going into more detail in that.
So Mukund will have this question. We'll take this question when he'll be presenting the upgrade slide, the migration slide. Go ahead, Sujindra. That's it.
Okay. Yeah. So I'll now go into some of the best practices we recommend in working with version 8. Starting, I want to give a mapping on how version 7 corresponds to version 8. So I have two columns. On the left-hand side of each column is the 7x component, and on the right-hand side is the 8.x component. Start off with software components. We are trying to introduce software components in the product. We don't have that currently. The bulk migration is now called the onboarding flow. The component profiles corresponds to flavor mappings and image mappings, which are essentially abstracted OS mappings. For example, image mapping, I could have a VMware template and or an AWS AMI having the same name called Ubuntu. On depending on the tag, the system will understand whether it needs to pick the VMware template or the AWS AMI. So we have abstraction even with OS flavors, let's say. Custom property groups, we'll have it in the product. Custom properties, again, we do have an event broker, XAS, all these remain same. Blueprints and deployment and so on. There are some changes in the user management area, wherein we have read-only, we'll be introducing read-only users. And the blueprint architect will be again a user in the system. We are coming up with a concept of custom roles where you will be able to define roles for your areas and manage it as well. On the right hand side, we do have some changes there wherein entitlements, we no longer have something called entitlements. These will be broken down into various roles or into content sharing mechanisms. So for example, blueprints are no longer within the scope of a tenant. They are in the scope of individual projects, which corresponds to business groups. So we'll be enabling sharing of blueprints across various projects and so on. The day 2 entitlements are now day 2 actions policies. The reservations, we no longer have something called reservation in the product. So the reservation concept has been broken down into multiple objects which enable abstraction. These are, I already mentioned project which corresponds to the business group. The reservation is broken down into cloud zone and profiles. The cloud zone is essentially a grouping of infrastructure. Let's say an example could be a vSphere data center. In vCenter could map to a cloud zone, or it could be one of the regions in AWS. For example, UST East could be a cloud zone. Network profile and storage profiles are essentially policy-like objects which govern, depending on the tag, which resources need to be consumed for the deployment. So let's say if you have 2 storage profiles and you've grouped SSDs into one profile and normal disk into the other, you could tag the deployment as SSD, and the SSD storage profile will be picked and the deployment will be done on SSD disk. So there is abstraction built into the system at all levels. The storage reservation is sort of built into the storage profile, wherein we have SPPM policy integration and some of the other properties exposed within the storage profile. The network profile is also consumed by the 8.x network profile. The business group admin is the project admin. The business group corresponds to the project, and the tenant corresponds to the organization. Fabric pool maps to Fabric group maps to Cloud Zone. So this is how the various let's say constructs map from version 7 to version 8. One of the key areas in the program, like I've given a couple of examples where tags are very important. Tag management is a very crucial area in version 8. Pretty much the entire product works on top of tags. And here I want to go a little bit deeper into how we manage tags. There are essentially two types of tags that we have. One is called the capability tags and the constraint tags. Capability tags are what you place on individual resources. Now, let's say you have data stores, or let's say you have individual clusters or networks. You would place tags on these infrastructure objects, and this is done by the admin. When the blueprint designer comes in, the designer places certain tags in the blueprint which enable placement. Now, let's say you want the deployment to happen on SSDs, you can place the appropriate tags. Or let's say you want to have this deployment automatically backed up by a particular integration, let's say with EMC or with net backup or so on. You can also place certain tags in the blueprint design itself, and the system will be able to do those appropriate things based on the tags. What the system then does is it maps the capability tags with the constraint tags, and which determines placement of the deployment on the various resources. So some of the examples at the bottom on the right hand side, the blueprint, we can no longer, the designer can not only say give hard-coded values of the tags, the tag can also be an input parameter at the request time. So input parameters are a big, are consumed broadly in version 8. And then they're very, very flexible.
So Sudhindra, there are a couple of questions. You want to address it now, or?
Yeah, we can do it immediately.
Okay. So there's a question from Randhir. She's asking, does VRA 8.x supports multiple scripting languages?
So we have a YAML format. So the blueprint is only in YAML.
Okay. There's one question from Prashant. I'm not sure, but he's asking the feature with star, are they available or going to be added in the future release?
Right. So some of those will come in the future. For example, software components and others are future items.
Okay. So there's one question from Salson. He's asking, can we manipulate tags based on the user input at the time of VM deployment?
Yes. So that's what the example is shown below. If you see the bottom right-hand side, the blueprint box, what's circled is actually how a tag is being specified in the blueprint. The dollar parentheses says that it's an input object, and essentially the tag is now mapped on input object.
So that means when a user is requesting any resource based on the catalog item, so does he also has that availability to alter the tags?
Correct. So for example, when you're going back to the previous example, so let's say I'm a developer and I say I want a development system, and I say this deployment has to be deployed in the development environment. So I say I choose development, and in the background I can map development to env dev, which is the tag here, which would correspond to the capability tag. So
okay.
So that will enable request time changes of the input parameters and the tags.
Yeah. So there's an interesting question from Deepak. He's asking, do we have integrations with version control system to manage the YAML blueprint files?
Yes, we do. So we support both GitLab and GitHub, and you'll be able to check in, check out all the blueprints that you've designed. and essentially manage the content with source control.
Okay, so the one last question before we move on. Aman is asking, what would be the expected behavior if there's a conflict between a capability tag and a constraint tag defined in the same blueprint? Which one takes precedence?
So whatever that you define inside a blueprint is always a constraint tag. The capability tag is something that you put on individual resources like vSphere clusters or AWS regions and so on. So whatever is in the blueprint will be a constraint tag. There are various places that you will have to place the tag. And specifically, for example, here in the blueprint example below, there's something called constraints, right? That constraint will enable you that will enable you to change placement decisions in that specific area called constraints. Now there's another tag above which says in the properties area, it says key application and there's a value associated to it. This you will use for any integration. So let's say you want to say keys backup and value is net backup or something like that based on input parameter. So you have various flexibility here.
Okay. Thanks. I think you can move on.
So Sudhir, there was one more question, though I have answered it, but still I want your validation on it. So the question was from Amit Kumar that do we support external databases with VRA 8? As far as I know, we don't support external databases anymore. It is all
Postgres.
It's Postgres, okay. Embedded Postgres, right?
Embedded Postgres.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, we can move on now.
Yeah. And just to have best practices on the tagging strategy, we use key value pairs, single case letters, mainly lowercase letters, and have very simple tags so that it's meaningful. What we are trying to ensure here, and it's very important to have a tagging strategy, is because we don't want to have a tag sprawl. I mean, we don't want the tagging system to become non-manageable. So ensure that you have a strategy in place for creating tags, and tags is something that you should use judicially and not have them at all places. Because if it can become a sprawl very quickly in this product. One example of how we use tags is, for example, the first one is a capability tag where we say platform tags on specific cloud accounts. For location tags, we can have on cloud zones, production, lab, and such specific tags on the compute and on the networks and so on, and even on the profiles. So all this will enable how placement occurs of the individual deployments. So there are several things that you can do with version 8. One is prevent a blueprint sprawl. So earlier in version 7, blueprints were across business groups and within the tenant. And you had to create a new blueprint for every change that you made. And one more thing is all image files have to be managed individually. In version 8, that's no longer the case with image profiles and flavor mappings, wherein we have abstraction on the type of images. So you can say, I want a 64-bit Ubuntu, and that maps to, the same that one image profile can map to a vSphere template in VM, or it can map to an AWS AMI or a Azure machine. So we have enabled abstraction at that level also. We have versioning of blueprints, like we discussed earlier. And we have also something called iterative deployments, wherein, so let's say you've basically designed a blueprint and deployed certain machines from it. But now you've gone ahead and made certain changes to the blueprint itself, and you want to update the existing deployments with it. Let's say you want to use a patch and things like that. So this can be done with iterative deployment, wherein the system will only apply those changes which are new, either additions or deletions, and it'll tell you before it goes ahead and makes the changes in deployment. So this enables that you don't need to redeploy things whenever you make changes. You can just update your existing deployments with iterative deployment. And one more thing is we have project level blueprints which can be shared across projects. For example, you can share the same blueprint across dev project and a QA project. This enables much better management of the blueprint level object, and will prevent a sprawl with it.
So, Surendra, there is a question from Randir. I think he's referring to Lambda functions. So he's asking, do we have serverless functions capability integrated into VRA Cloud Assembly services?
Yes, we do. I don't have a slide specific to it, but we do have serverless function support in VRA 8.
Okay, thanks.
So reservations is something which we had in version 7, which we no longer have in version 8. And reservation was one of the most highly created objects in version 7. So we've seen customers with having 100,000 reservations and so on. So we wanted to simplify that construct, and essentially we've brought in a different placement mechanism with the cloud zones and profiles. We have abstraction, which enables fewer constructs. And the other aspect is we have project level management, wherein you have a project admin and project users, and and you're no longer within doing everything in the scope of the tenant. So this enables much lesser requirement on creating reservations and so on. Also, the tag management enables that you say all resources should be placed on this particular data store. You'll be essentially grouping probably 100 different reservations into one, depending on the blueprint and things like that. So all the abstraction enables you to create much. You don't need reservations to that extent anymore with version 8. Right. So like I said, we don't have the reservations anymore, and I want to give a brief on how the user management is changing. So within version 7, we had tenants and business groups, and on top of it were blueprints and architects or the users, let's say. That is simplified in 8.x, wherein you have the cloud admin and you have the cloud zones, which are essentially infrastructure objects. All design items like blueprints are scoped within the project itself. And within the project, you have individual admins and members. This enables, like I said, much cleaner management and better access control. And more granular access control can be defined with custom roles, which we are going to introduce in the product going forward. So this means that when you think of deploying version 8, you need to think whether you need to go with the same number of tenants and business groups, or you now have an opportunity to consolidate your various tenants and business groups into one, and also on the infrastructure side as well. On the day 2 policies, we have much better organization. We no longer have entitlements. Those are converted into policies, something called day 2 policies. And when we talk about day 2 policies, we have two types, hard and soft. And these are implemented at 2 levels, at an organization level or at a project level. So essentially, we have the policy mechanism always takes the hard level organization first. The hard policies are always prioritized over soft, and that's how uh, the hierarchy works. The organization level hard policies are first priority, followed by project hard. Org soft and project soft are essentially lower level, only if hard policies are not applicable. So there is an inheritance of policies as well, so that you can have different types of policies defined. And by default, everybody will have access to D2s if there is no policy to govern who has access or not. Before
Satendra,
yeah.
do you want to take some questions?
Sure.
Okay. So Prashant has a question. Iterative deployments, does it mean the change in blueprint will cause updates in provision VMs as well?
Correct. So that's the intent, wherein I can update an existing deployment with a change in blueprint.
Perfect. Vishal Thombare has a question. How to manage existing tenant 7.x post upgrade to 8.x as there is no tenant?
It is coming in 8.1 and 8.2. We'll be supporting multi-tenancy. We'll be able to create multiple orgs within the same VRA deployment. So it's coming in the product.
Okay. Dharmendra Yadav has a question. Is VRA 8.x going to provide true multi-tenancy like VCD? So it is coming in the next releases.
Yes.
I think the other question is also same by Vinay PK. Do we have multi-tenant in VRA 8.0? If not, is it coming in near future?
Yeah, so it'll come in, we'll start with 8.1 where we'll have some functionality available, and we'll improve upon it in 8.2.
Okay. And do we have approval policy in VRA 8.0?
That is 8.1.
Again, 8.1. Okay. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, probably now is a good time to go into the roadmap. So this is what's coming in 8.1 and 8.2. Like I said, multi-tenancy, we are starting from 8.1 and will improve in 8.2. Some of the main items, approvals is coming in 8.1. XaaS, custom resources, custom day 2, both are coming in 8.1. We have some limits, storage limits, where you can assign how much storage can be consumed, or compute can be consumed. That is coming in 8.1 with some restrictions. We are also introducing the VROps integration, the rate cards for pricing in 8.1. We already had health metrics and others in 8.0 itself. In terms of integration, VRO has enhancements wherein it will support Git, PowerShell, Python, and Node.js instead of a VRO workflow. And ABX, we now support PowerShell as well. So those are enhancements on those areas. We have a VCF integration. We have pipelines integration and so on. We'll also support VRA Cloud and VROps Cloud integration. On the ecosystem, we'll support OpenShift, Project Pacific, which are enhancements for Kubernetes support. We'll have Ansible Tower integration and an IPAM framework as well. In version 8.2, the main ones coming in is we'll have a Cloud Health integration for managing native public cloud resources. We'll have enhancements done to the Project Pacific integration, as well as we'll have Terraform integration in place, wherein we'll have VRA will be a provider service of Terraform within VRA itself, which can be consumed within the product, and which will align to the governance structures within the product. On the storage limits, there'll be announcements to wherein we'll extend the limits to both public cloud and private cloud. On the approval side, we'll enhance it to support multi-level approvals and group approvals. Port forwarding, notification enhancements, and so on are again on the roadmap for 8.2. I'll go into the migration aspects a little later, but any questions on the roadmap?
There's one. Akhil is asking, do we have okay, so Randhir is asking, do we have Power VC integration? I cannot see it in the roadmap.
No, we don't have that. So Power.
Okay, so that was the only question related to roadmap. I think
Okay.
we can move on.
Sure. So yeah, before I go into migration, so as you have seen, version 8 is actually a very different product compared to version 7. So there is no direct upgrade to version 8, and it will involve some amount of migration or transition to adopt version 8. Some of the things that we need to keep thought of is, so at the time of because there are so many enhancements at a very granular level in version 8, you might want to think whether you want to directly adopt everything as it is in version 7, or you might want to do some redesign and improve the deployment or installation which you have to take better advantage of all the capabilities that are there in the product today. So you might want to understand the product a little bit and essentially take a phased manner on how you would consume version 8. So these are some of the steps that we recommend, wherein probably understanding the product, assess the usage, deploy 8.0, see what is the feature functionality, getting used to the product. We recommend doing that because 8.0 will feel very different compared to version 7. Before you actually think of moving to version 8, we definitely recommend going playing around with the product for a little bit. And finally, when you start moving into version 8, we have certain things which will enable, which we are planning to simplify so that we can help you with the journey. So with version 8, we are shipping something called a migration assessment tool. So what it is essentially a tool which you can use to see whether your 7x deployment is ready to be migrated or not, considering the various functionality which is there. We have only enabled the assessment for now, and the migrations assistant, which will enable migration of the 7x constructs to 8.x, will come in the future, essentially in 8.2. But the approach which we've taken is as follows when it comes to migration. One is we want to make it into a planned approach, wherein you can start off with the assessment service today, which is enabled today, and see how you are placed when it comes to migrating or consuming version 8 constructs. So the assessment service will go to the granularity of, let's say, blueprints or individual endpoints in VRA. We also have a VRO assessment where we'll also be able to pinpoint which workflows or actions are compatible with version 8. So you can first run an assessment, see where you need to make changes to be compatible with version 8. The assessment tool is also very modular, wherein we do the assessment business group by business group, so that the migration is not one big bang approach. So you'll be able to migrate one business group at a time, see what works and what doesn't, and if something doesn't work well, you'll always be able to roll back changes and essentially clean up the environment in version 8. One thing which we have ensured is this is a read-only tool from a version 7 perspective. When you point this tool to a version 7 deployment, it only has read-only privileges and it will not be able to make any changes whatsoever on version 7. So even if you point to a production system, it cannot make any changes, and your 7x deployment will be 100%. It won't change at all. So that will ensure that you always have your current things running as they are. And version 8, whatever we create we'll be creating new in version 8. And when we say rollback, we are essentially deleting whatever we create in version 8. So that's the approach which we are following when it comes to migrating content from 7 to 8. We'll also have an option to migrate VIDM and all the users. Earlier it was embedded inside the product. Now VIDM is an external deployment. So I will support that as well. In terms of the timelines, we already released the assessment service with version 8. With 8.1, actually we've already released the offline assessment tool as well, wherein you won't need VRA to be installed to collect the assessment bundles. You'll be able to upload them into VRA Cloud and do the assessment as well. So that is the assessment of VRA Cloud is coming soon in the March release, I think, in VRA Cloud. And finally, the migration assistant which is coming in version 8.2. One thing to note is the migration assistant is an assistant. It is not meant to migrate anything and everything in version 7. It will not be able to do everything that is there in the product, because the product by nature involves a lot of customization and specific to your environment. So not everything will be able to migrate, but you'll be able to leverage the migration assistant tool, and we'll be able to publishing a migration guide as well, which you can leverage to transition to version 8.
So will that only support 7.5 and 7.6 version, or it's going to support 7.4?
No, so we only deploy the tool only supports 7.5 and 7.6 deployments of VRA.
Okay.
So some of the considerations which you might want to do is you might want to think of redesigning your system when it comes to version 8, because the product will enable you to have a much simpler deployment and a much simpler installation and much easier to use also, and not carry over some of the difficulties which you had in version 7. So you might want to think how you would want to transition to version 8, and accordingly you should be able to manage it. So some recommendations from our end is that given the tag management strategy, the policy management and so on, you should reevaluate your placement decisions and how you would want to organize your infrastructure and also your users to have better management of the system. And this is just snapshots of the assessment tool where once you log in, you just point it to a VRA 7 deployment. It'll basically crawl through the deployment and identify all the constructs and group via business groups. It assesses both VRA and VRO and finally gives you an assessment report. So that's pretty much what I had for today. So any questions?
Yeah, there are a few questions. So Akhil wants to ask, what kind of costing and pricing is available in 8.x? Can we get customized, which means define the objects not only from CPU RAM, but and prices as well?
Yeah, so we have a pretty granular 4 or 5 level objects support which we have in the pricing mechanism. So one is, like you said, the basic infrastructure, which is CPU, disk storage, memory. So that is the first thing. Second is the guest OS support, wherein if it's Windows or Linux, those can be costed as well. And in terms of this, you can have additional costs. So let's say you want to put a markup on all these resources, we support that. Both as a form, both as a direct value, wherein you'll be able to 1,000 rupee markup on per GB of storage, or you can say I want 10% markup So the choice is yours. And in addition to this, we have um, custom custom prices based on tags. So let's say you tag a blueprint and say any deployment with this tag will have an additional 1,000 rupee cost or a $10 cost. So we support that as well. So we have custom prices based on tags. And finally, we enable running these pricing cards at two different levels. You can either run it on cloud zones, which is essentially on top of infrastructure, or you can run it at a project level, wherein you can say let's say the cost of project A versus project B. You can have different prices for each different project. So so the pricing feature which is coming in 8.1 is actually pretty flexible and pretty powerful as well.
Okay, so does it leverage the same costing engine which is there in VROPS as part of VRB, or
Yes.
there's a separate integration altogether?
No, so both the costing and pricing engine that is there in VROPS is leveraged by VRA. So we are not gonna build anything new and have two different values of everything. So what you see in VROPS will be same in VRA. We'll have consistency of in both products.
Okay. And there's one last question from Randhir. So he's asking, do we assessment tool for multi-tenancy? I mean, can we use assessment tool for multi-tenant environment?
No, so what we do is business group by business group. So one business group will map to one project in 8. When you call multi-tenant, so the tool works inside of a tenant. So you can run the same tool for different tenants, and you'll be able to migrate over the tenants, but you can't consolidate the tenants with this tool. So if that's a consideration which you may have, is if you want to consolidate, and that's a very valid use case with 8 because we enable that. If you want to consolidate, you are actually better off not using this tool.
So does that mean that if any infrastructure has multiple tenants, so they have to run this individually for each tenant and then import the view?
Correct. You'll have to run it for each individual tenant.
Okay. So we don't have any questions on chat window or Q&A window. So I would request attendees, if there is anyone who has a question, you can unmute yourself and you can ask a question. We'll keep this session open for the next couple of minutes.
So there was one question from Mukund which was unanswered before. So his question was, do we support export of custom workflows in VRA 7.x and then import the same custom workflows in VRA 8.x version?
So if you're talking about custom workflows as in VRO
workflows.
Yeah, so that is not there. So you'll have to, there's a different mechanism for bringing in workflows into version 8. First, you have to register the VRO endpoint and then bring it in as content in version 8. So there's no direct export and import. It might not work also in some certain cases because we no longer support the IaaS or the Cafe plugin or the Cafe nodes in version 8. So you might want to see how you would want to reuse some of those VRO workflows.
Okay. Yeah, so as Sid said, if you want to ask questions, you can unmute yourself and ask directly to Sudhindra. We'll keep this open for 2-3 more minutes. So Sudhindra, what would be your advice to customers who are on 7.5, 7.6 and who wants to move to 8.x? Should we wait for the migration assistant which is going to be there in H2?
No, my recommendation is install 8.0 now because it will take time to understand the product. It is very, very different to version 7. You will have to spend some time to understand the product, and once you do, the management of VRA and the management of the infrastructure becomes very, very simple. Because of the abstraction, you no longer have to make any changes, all of the constructs, cloud zones, profiles are extensible, wherein you make any changes in the infrastructure, those are automatically discovered, data collected, and become available in the product. So it makes your life very easy in version 8, but that also involves some learning to get used to the product because the concepts are very different.
Mhm.
So Sudhindra, sorry.
Yeah. So one last point I wanted to mention is on the assessment side, the assessment service is already available, and I would highly encourage you to run the assessment once because you will get a sense of how much has changed with the product when you actually run the assessment. So um, we want to make the journey simple, but we are essentially talking about very different products here.
Okay.
So Sudhindra, which public-facing documents or tutorials would you recommend to customers to go ahead and start reading about it before they go ahead and deploy and try their hands?
So we have, I think there are three main documents which we have. One is the deployment guide, which will tell you how to deploy VRA 8. And it's very simple. It is through the easy installer, which deploys all three products. And we'll be able to, we actually timed it and we were able to deploy a 3-node HA in 1 hour, 15 minutes. So it's as simple as that. So uh, the deployment guide for sure. The admin guide is also very useful to understand concepts. And again, we have a migration guide published, which will help you do the assessment from 7 to version 8. So three things. In addition to this, we do have a lot of videos on YouTube, which you can go through as well.
Okay. Nitin, I don't think there's any further questions. So are we good to close?
I have a question. So, Sudhindra, you said we should do a parallel deployment of VRA 8. So, in that case, can we have the same vCenter server endpoint registered on these two VRA versions 7 and 8?
Yeah, absolutely. So it won't impact your version 7 in any way.
Okay.
You just consume probably a little more resources, whatever you deploy through version 8, but it won't impact version 7 in any way.
Perfect. Yeah, so we don't have any more questions. So I think we are good to close. Thank you, Sudhindra. Thanks a lot for this wonderful session. Thank you everyone for joining this webinar. So we will share the recording with your TAMs, get in touch with your respective TAMs to get the recording and share it with your peers. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Sudhindra.